Well, we did it, y'all. We are officially at volume 10. That is 10 volumes of Lenin. And before I begin talking about volume 10, I wanted to say thank you for going through 10 volumes with me so far. Thanks for putting up with my awkward video interface, whatever it's called. And thanks for listening. Thanks for commenting on the videos on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. I really appreciate it, especially those of you who have shared it and who have responded positively to what I have to say. For those of you who really dislike the mono red color, I tell you, well, that maybe there's some strategy to that, and you'll have to see later when we're done with Lenin. Without further ado, let's get into volume 10. In November 1905, Lenin made his return to St. Petersburg to begin the task of reorganizing the party and building its strength in a new politically charged atmosphere of post-October Manifesto Russia. Thus, Volume 10 begins in November of that year, and the first major work in that volume is aptly titled, quote, The Reorganization of the Party. Out of the revolutionary upheavals of 1905 emerged the Soviets, or workers' councils, as new bodies that served the political and economic interests of the working class. Lenin rightfully recognized these councils as important bodies in the struggle, but he believed that social democrats should not dominate them. Instead, he argued that the Soviets should be made of all parties and fields of work to make it truly representative, but that the Russian Social Democrats should be a powerful and united force within the body. At this early point, Lenin believed that the Soviets should serve as a provisional government in embryo. This meant a widening of the party's agitation in numbers, and while it might seem, to a certain extent, that it's a concession to the Menshevik call for a mass party, Lenin is careful to argue that the secret apparatus of the party must be maintained while the party work is broadened and legitimated. The reforms of 1905 also led Lenin to believe that the party needed to move into legal work, establishing cafes, meeting houses, public lectures, rallies, to fully take advantage of the moment. In the article Socialism and Anarchism, Lenin argues that anarchists, because they do not believe in parties or the state, should not be permitted to participate in the executive committee of the Soviet of Workers' Deputies. They do not recognize the political struggle and as such cannot participate in a political body. He adds, quote, if the anarchists, while rejecting the political struggle, apply for representation in an institution which is conducting such a struggle, this crying inconsistency merely goes to show once again how utterly unstable are the philosophy and tactics of anarchists. But of course, instability is no reason for excluding anyone from parliament or an organ of self-government. In the Socialist Party and the non-party Revolutionism, Lenin notes the emergence of non-party groups and argues that their demands are, quote, cultural demands for elementary rights and reforms fully realizable within the capitalist structures, as opposed to specific class demands. Nevertheless, social democrats need to participate in these non-party groups in certain exceptional cases where it's strategically valuable. In Socialism and Religion, Lenin states that religion must be declared a private affair, but that shouldn't stop the Social Democrats from advocating for a paradise on earth rather than one in heaven. Should we boycott the state Duma? Points out that Mensheviks wanted to participate in the Duma, but Bolsheviks wanted a definite boycott. Lenin's goal here is to establish some consensus before the Unity Congress that intended to bring the two factions back together. Lenin's reasoning for boycotting was that participating would unintentionally create confidence in the Duma, which was nothing but, quote, a ruse employed by the autocracy, not, in fact, a real parliament. In The Russian Revolution and Tasks of the Proletariat, Lenin wrestles with the notion, supported by many at the time, that the possibility for a proletariat revolution was waning and the time of bourgeois complacency was setting in. He refers to German revolutionary Karl Kautsky, who compared the Russian Revolution to that of Paris in 1848, saying that Russia is different because the workers have not been defeated, as in France, and the peasants are on the side of the Russian workers. Most importantly, Kautsky says that Russia's masses are spontaneous and unorganized, and Lenin agrees that this is the most fundamental question posited for Russian Social Democrats. To give up the maximum program of long-term revolution, in other words, is to submit to the Duma and strive for full legalization of the party. But to recognize the revolution as still in progress means to continue advocating and pushing for insurrection. So, a lot of this volume contains documents concerning the lead up and minutes of the quote Unity Congress of the RSDLP. Luckily for us, Lenin wrote, quote, the Congress summed up to give us a snapshot of his most important takeaways. For one, Lenin claimed that the split had been staved, but a clear demarcating line between the left wing and the right wing of social democracy has emerged. The right wing does not believe in the complete victory of the present and believes that only bourgeoisie can independently make the bourgeois revolution, and they overrate the importance of the cadets or the Liberal Party. Here, Lenin says the left wing of the party really needs to work against the trend of complacency, using the slogan freedom of discussion, unity of action, meaning that the disagreements shouldn't split the party, but should encourage open discussion and debate. One of the important agreements made was that the party decided to come together to take part in the elections, and that there must be no criticism of participation during those elections. The topics that created the most debate at the Unity Congress concerned one, the municipalization of the party, and two, the topic of insurrection. Finally, in the present political situation, Lenin reflects on what is happening in Russia by 1906. On the one hand, the masses are awakening and becoming active. The class differences are beginning to express themselves in the Duma. The peasant struggle is becoming more intense, and Western capitalists are losing confidence in Russian investment. In the Duma, there is infighting within the Cadet Party and the Trudoviki, or the Socialist Revolutionary Breakaway Workers section. And the Trudoviki, along with the Proletariat Social Democrats and the RSDLP, agreed that the cadets are working to maintain the power of landlords and capitalists. And it's worth pointing out here, just for clarity, that Socialist Revolutionary Party is not the same as the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party. The Socialist Revolutionaries were populists, including anarchists, whose main social focus was the peasantry. So this has been a long episode, fitting for Volume 10, I suppose. And the next episode will be a summary of Volumes 5 to 10. So thanks for listening. Until next time.